So this potential client came to me about the end of March, and they basically said, so John, I was running Google ads for my 2 escape room businesses about a year and a half ago. The ads did great for several months, and then all of a sudden results just completely fell off, and it lasted 4 months. And then I eventually fired the agency. So I want to give it another try because this year so far in 2025, he showed me his, month over month on Stripe, and his business was overall down about 10, 15, even some months 20% on the month. So he's like, oh, I need to give this another try. I want to increase revenue again. So I got him all set up on both of his escape room businesses. And as you can see, for the past several months, this one over here is much newer than this one. We started with just one. And after I was able to prove him with successful results, we got started on the other business. And now I actually have another business of his as well, but it is not in this same niche / industry. So I didn't want to include it in this video. But as you can see, my results for him have been very successful. And where I started with this was I basically, of course, audited all the existing spend, because when a client's account already has spend in it, whether that spend was profitable or not, but if there's a good amount of spend, it is always very, very important to be looking at where that spend went, what keywords they use, cost per conversion, what worked, what hadn't worked, etc. Because there's no need for me to completely start from scratch and, basically use my eyes from here on out to make decisions. But it's really important to make sure that I'm starting off, I'm hitting the ground running for this guy by looking at what's already worked and what hasn't. So doing a very detailed audit of both of these accounts was very, very important to, learn from things that had already been done. Again, just so we can start the ground running and not waste money on making the same mistakes. That's how you get fired very quickly. So of course, my goal is to get him the best results as possible and show him that, hey, I am the guy for this. So basically getting into this, long story short, what I did is I just cleaned everything up by starting both of these business. As you can see, this one here started with initially a lot less spend. It has less time. So this has 1 campaign. This has 3. So I'm going to kind of go from, because this account also started with 1 campaign. So I'm going to kind of bring you through the process of where I started and why, and then how we've got to this 3 campaigns and seeing about a 5x here, spending a good amount of money. So where it started with, of course, was just the 1 campaign, where the number one thing that you always want to, make work is going to be your search campaign. For basically any industry, e-commerce can be, a lot different, but anything, just local or home service, or anything that's not e-commerce, search campaign is going to be, your golden campaign. So you always want to make sure that you're starting with 1 and that you're going to make sure, before you do anything, let's want to make that work. So of course, because he is an escape room business and he has tons of different escape rooms and options, upon doing keyword research in his local area, as to no surprise, there is not a lot of volume for people looking up specifically, like, let's just say Wizard of Oz escape room, because that's very niche, especially for like a local area, maybe 20, 25 miles max. That's not going to have as much search volume as something, where people are looking for an actual escape room itself. So of course, having multiple other competitors, there was a good amount of searches for just escape room in general. So it's like, okay, great. I looked at other competitors. A lot of them are also running ads. So now we just have to fit into the bunch and make sure that we are actually, winning and bidding and being a part of this auction and getting some more of that traffic and just overall, now biting in the pool or the market share of people that are actually searching for escape rooms, because the market is big enough in his area. So we were able to start with something overall pretty simple. And once I proved that out, I was able to show him, hey, we're getting the results that we want. Let's start scaling really quick. Of course, we made sure that we're not, using any competitive keywords, making sure competitive and, actual branded search terms are not keywords, and make sure that they are negative. And of course, in past videos, like I've talked about how to actually set up and run Google Ads account successful, made sure that the ad groups were all split up by very, very specific things. We didn't just have one ad group that was like, great, people looking for escape rooms. I had, I think, 6 ad groups at the very start, giving people and having ad groups specifically for exactly what people were looking for, even if that ad group only had a couple keywords in it. But if there was search volume for it, the biggest thing here is not being lazy, and I want to give people exactly what they're looking for. So escape room near me, escape room in blank city, etc. Those are all very different searches. So I had an ad group quite literally for each of those. Then I have ad copy and of course keywords that reflect that, to give people exactly what they're looking for. So starting off with that, we're able to see success right out of the gate. The one thing that helps this business a lot and helps me is that these businesses have been going for a long time, and they have a very substantial number of reviews that are also, of course, very high ranking reviews. So it would be different if they had 500 2-star reviews, of course, compared to 500 4.5 or 4.8 star reviews. That always helps as well. Just win people over and get that click and get that conversion, because your business is showing that online, it's developed a good amount of authority and people trust it. So going from there, of course, that helped proving out that very basic system right away. And then what we did from there is, okay, great. Now I need to get you new customers. So you can only compete in the pool of people looking for escape rooms for so long until you keep scaling, you keep scaling, and then you go, okay, great. The click share and the impression share is like, well, we're getting to that point where, you're spending, $7,000 a month, let's just say, you're hitting the point where there's almost no more searches, because you can't monopolize, a search. You can't always show up number one all the time, but you get to a point where you spend, and just like any ad campaign ever, you start to see those diminished returns because you've almost attacked, and you're basically the biggest fish in that market share. So once we got to that point of spending a little bit more than $5,000 or so a month, where we got there is I ended up making a performance max campaign, and I only used things that were going to bring us up from that bottom of funnel to that middle of funnel, right? So the bottom of funnel is a search campaign. We are now targeting people, etc., just looking for these things where we've attacked most of the market share. Okay, now what can we do to scale more and actually bring in new customers to this business? So I made this performance max campaign, and we started targeting stuff. I was split testing asset groups of people who are using audience signals for people that have kids or have a birthday coming up, or maybe just moved, or people who like to do family activities, or using also audience segments of people who have visited websites like local bowling alleys or like the local Dave and Buster's to kind of advertise to the types of people who would be interested in this, as well as tried an asset group with none of those and just kept it open. But the thing that stayed the same was those actual search themes, because in a performance max you don't have keywords, but you basically have the broader version of a broad keyword for a search campaign, which is called a search theme. So we did a lot of stuff targeting like people, looking up activities to do indoors in blank city, what to do on a rainy day in blank city, right? So bringing people who weren't already looking for these services, we brought them to the business to overall, of course you can expect to see a lower return on ad spend when you're going up in the funnel, especially for something that has direct online bookings where people pay for it right away. And that's how we can actually see, the return on ad spend by the percentages, because people pay for it beforehand. So you're always going to see, typically a lower return on ad spend if you go up in the marketing funnel. Like I said, targeting those people who are just like looking for things to do, looking for activities, or targeting people who have kids or just moved here or are fond of, those types of activities and those types of businesses. But now we are introducing and advertising and showing, our business or this client's business to a new audience, people who weren't already looking for it, people who are in that area, and now bringing them, because if they have and they go, let's say they book, they have a positive experience. Okay, now you have a new customer, someone who wasn't in the pool, someone who might leave you a review, someone who might come back again, might refer people. You're almost now increasing that market share. So again, like I mentioned with that first search campaign, when you're just doing pure bottom of funnel and you're in a local area, you're going to tap it eventually. You're going to see diminished returns. You can only spend so much and get in front of so many eyeballs. So we went up in the marketing funnel to the performance max campaign to bring people to basically to influence, to make people interested. And that's what's going to overall slowly increase that market share, but then also just give my client's business more in brand new customers. So that was a big thing. And then now the third campaign we have is I wanted to do basically a split test. So I've mentioned this in several other videos, and more of an advanced strategy that I do with my ad accounts is, especially as you scale and you start to grow and you start to hit those certain limits of click share and impression share, I do something what's called dividing and conquering. So things like, for an example, your location or your budget, those are always going to be at an actual campaign level. So whether your ad group or location, like let's say you're doing like Los Angeles and then all the cities around it, so just like the LA metro area, let's say that LA is taking up, most of your, like 80% of your budget in that campaign, because that's where most of the clicks are, right? That doesn't mean that LA is going to give you, your highest returning customers or your lowest cost per conversion or your highest ROAS customers, but it just means that that's where the clicks are coming from the most. And Google is pay per click, not pay per impression, like something like Meta or TikTok, but you pay when people click. So typically the area or location, for example, or ad group that has the most overall click volume, that's where the clicks are going to go. That's where the budget's going to go, whether it's the best or not. So once you're always going to see some gravitational pull, especially if you have like maybe 5 ad groups, you'll probably see 80% of spend in one ad group and maybe like 15% spend in the other, and the other ones probably won't be getting any because of what I just said. Same thing with locations. So what I always do is when I prove out a system, I start broad with a bunch of ad groups, all the locations, just boom, keep it wide open. And then as you see results come in, you kind of build the success of this campaign, and then you split it and you divide and conquer. So I duplicated that original search campaign, and then I paused the ad groups in the duplicated campaign that were working successfully in the original campaign. And then I took 30% of the original campaign's budget and put it in that duplicated ad campaign so we could test, right? Because we had 2 ad groups, I believe 2 or 3, that weren't getting any spend at all because they were getting hogged by these other, ad groups itself. So we wanted to bring that out and now test that. So that's a way, because when you scale any account, you can't just scale vertically forever, which means you can't just have like one campaign and you just keep increasing the budget forever until you're spending $100,000 a month. Especially if you're in like a 20-mile radius area, city, like you can't be spending, $10,000 a day on something like this. It's just not going to happen. So you have to make sure that you're also scaling horizontally to scale vertically. So that's just an example of what I like to do for divide and conquer. It's also a lot different too, depending on how many services someone has. So I'll probably make a video on this too, but the other business of this client is like an entertainment business. It's basically like a Dave & Buster's, but it's not corporate or chained or franchise, but it's basically a business like that. Has axe throwing, arcade, bowling, all types of stuff like that, mini golf. So it's like that business has a lot more angles to test, right? But if you're, same thing with like an auto shop, you might have AC repair, alignments, oil change. Like there are a lot of different, ways to scale in different types of markets. But when you're like an escape room business, so you really only have the escape room as your leverage. And that's why I also made that Performance Max campaign to bring in those new customers, because there's only so many things you can advertise for, right? Like an e-commerce brand. If you have 75 different products of like a candle or a skincare or, a pen, like there's so many different verticals to go. But for something like this, you have to get more creative. So again, it's just on our way to maxing out our spend while still seeing high results and making sure that we're including every little thing and we're not just capping ourselves and, being limited to, 30% of the assets in our original campaigns. But again, building up successful campaigns, dividing, conquering, and then giving campaigns their own budget of things that were never able to get any spend in the original campaign. So such as locations, ad groups, etc. For search campaigns, those are the big ones. But basically, that is overall the main strategy. Again, too, for this, right, you're probably not going to bring people to a landing page, but for this client, he has 2 really good websites. This website on this account was amazing, and it honestly was very poor on this. So before we even started, I sold him a completely new website that I knew, I was like, hey, this is not even going to be worth starting with this. You may as well give me, what I'm asking to make you a whole new website that I know is going to convert better. So we used the exact blueprint. I used the exact blueprint and basically copied his original website for his other business. I was like, we're going to have it mimic basically this, because this website crushes. This business is successful. It converts high with ads. I want it to almost look just like this. So we took that time and basically built that out on this other company. And that is what has also enabled us to see these big results. So you always want to make sure, of course, that you have accurate conversion tracking set up, and that you want to make sure that you're split testing, or you have a very overall high converting landing page or website, as well as, your price matching competitors. You're looking at what competitors are doing, etc. So all that comes into play here. So if you're watching this video to learn how you can make your escape room ads better, then I hope I was able to give you some deeper insights. Also, if you're watching this for your business and you're thinking about maybe having someone do it, I hope this was a good video to prove to you that I am the expert. And if anyone is ever going to make your Google Ads work, it is going to be me, because my business is just me and I put all my heart and soul into all my client ad accounts. I'm not some big agency that's going to pawn you off to someone else. You'll have my personal number. I'll call you, I'll chat with you, and I will be doing every little thing inside your ad account. So if you want me to make your business successful with Google Ads, like I've now worked with over 100 brands, I would love to do the same for you. So go ahead and go to the first link in the description of this video. Go to my website, fill out my contact form. I will call you within minutes unless I am sleeping. I'll call you when I wake up, or if I'm out of a meeting, or when I'm out of a meeting, I'll give you a call. And I would love to see how I can either audit or run your Google Ads for you to help you and allow you to focus on other aspects of your business, so I can focus on this for you so you can grow and we can grow together. So thank you for watching. I hope I was able to give you guys some insights, and I'll talk to you in the next video.